For those with good taste.
What is up, tasties and tastettes? Welcome back to another episode of FTWGT Weekly. It's your boy Lenny, joined again, as always, with that guy D33 Ray.
What it do?
And the dirty D himself, Dante. What is
all
up?
Good, baby.
And if it's all good for you guys out there, make sure to drop a like, comment, share, and subscribe on the video. This week, we are doing our 2024 year in review. We're going to be throwing around some superlatives. Maybe getting into our lists a little bit, huh?
Maybe.
And stick around to the end to hear who won our year-end movie chase.
Whatever. It wasn't a competition.
I seem to remember...
No.
We'll review that. Stick around till the end. I can't wait.
Spoiler alert. It wasn't me.
Yeah. But yeah, it's going to get feisty at the end of this episode. All right. So let's start off with like throwing around some superlatives, right? So we got some categories. Let's break them down. Actually, can I do something else really quickly? Because like this is the top of my notes on here.
1 minute in and we're off the rails.
Yeah. I have to. Well,
that's
talk
how we do
about
things
something.
here.
We all went to the movies yesterday, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Something really chaps my ass in the movies right now. Something's really chapping my ass.
Okay.
So before like every movie, we talked about this a little bit, like this, like how they changed the thing at this. It's Sonic right now, right?
Yeah.
So like that's the first thing where they're like, don't use your phone in the movie theater. Cool, fine. The next thing after that's where I get upset. They do this whole thing now about like the new laser projectors in the theater. Have you seen this like before the movie, right? Yep. And it's like light hits this and it becomes the movie and it looks crisp and like fantastic and like movies will never look better. And I just found myself writing my notes that like the movie theaters are too pretentious with the beginning parts about how good their projectors are, and I'm sick of it. Is what I wrote. Like I'm so fucking annoyed with them just telling me before every movie. Like spend 5 minutes telling me how good the movie looks. Just show the fucking movie. Stop trying to tell me how to feel. I feel like it's a mind trick a little bit. Like they're trying to convince you that something's different. Like when they do that thing where they show the filter over
Adobe.
Yeah, and you're like, dude, like you're making it look worse to make this look better. Exactly. Like, you know, and I just wanted to get that out there. That like movie theaters have no right now to be pretentious and high and mighty about how good their picture quality is. That's all I wanted to get out there. I was just upset. I found myself upset last night, and it was just a little too self-indulgent the way that they were describing their projectors. Crystals, lights, crystals, things like that. All right, so that's reflectively, they've made some better. Like I do like the change with the Sonic and the Wicked and like all those things. We talked about that. That's a plus. Cut out the other 9 minutes worth of shit. I think I'm over Nicole Kidman. There's just too much of that like run right before the movie. It goes on too long. You think you're done, then they do the Coca-Cola thing.
Well, that one bothers me more because it's like pick one. Do the Coca-Cola thing or the Nicole Kidman thing? Like, why are we doing both?
Yeah, they're both the same thing. I think that's why it got me so mad with like the talking about the projector thing, because I was just like, dude, like every time you think you're done with one, they just play another little like ad thing about the fucking movie or like what's the thing she says? Something like looks good in a place like this.
Heartbreak feels good in a place like this.
Fuck off, dude. Like I'm just over it.
Well, I think it just adds on to the like, all right, you have a 7:30 movie run, like start time. Your movie's not starting until 7:55 or even 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Like
I've sat through 20 minutes of trailers and you're so excited because you think you're there and they play a little Sonic thing. And then they're like, lights, cameras. We reinvented the wheel by finding this extra crystal that attaches to our light bulb and projects out. And you're like,
crystal.
Suck my dick. Like, get over it. And then you're like, okay, I'm done. And then there's just like, but
wait, there's more.
And it goes into the people dancing to the fucking Coca-Cola thing. And then you get done with the Coca-Cola thing. You're like, oh, the scene from Fast and Furious 4, like in Brazil, is finally fucking over. Actually, it's 5. But either way, you get to the Nicole Kidman thing. And you're like, dude, like we just did the no phones thing like 3 scenes ago. Yeah. And you're gassing me up for what, dude? There's nobody in the theater you're in. You were pretentious 2 seconds ago. All right, I'm done.
Oh, God.
Well, speaking of which, this leads me to my first category because I think it's appropriate. You sit through all of that shit, right? You get through the 4 scenes, the 10 minutes more of them just talking about bullshit. and then you get to a movie that you'll never remember again.
Yeah.
What's the movie that came out this year that in a few years when somebody's talking about it, you'll be like, oh yeah, that was a thing? Do you guys have any?
I've got one. For me, it was Ghostbusters, the Frozen Empire Throne.
Frozen Empire.
I already forget it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. What is? I don't know that I thought this was like that. It's okay. You're right. I do think you're right. Like, it's very much a forgettable experience. But I was saying this before. Like, I do think that for people who genuinely like Ghostbusters, there was maybe something here.
I don't know. It was just a whole bunch of like, kind of like, who cares? Like, they rebooted the movie where it was like out in the middle of nowhere, New Mexico or something.
Afterlife, yeah.
Which was an okay movie, but then you just took all these kids out of that place and now put them back in New York, and it was just, I don't know, didn't work for me. Thought it was.
It just
weird.
went back to the same old.
Yeah.
You know what I think bummed me out about that movie and made it forgettable? I thought the trailer just had something like cool to it. Like,
it made it feel like
literally like it was
good,
Frozen, you know? And then the movie just didn't really live up to like what I thought. First of all, that trailer was misleading because you were like, you didn't think it was a Ghostbusters movie when that trailer starts falling. I thought it was like a day after next.
Day after tomorrow.
Well, the sequel,
I see.
you know?
Okay.
The day after next tomorrow.
Next tomorrow?
And then
you just ripping Friday titles.
and instead it was just like, oh, it's just ghosts. And ghosts don't get cold, to my knowledge. They're just always cold, right?
Yeah, like, isn't it like if you're in like a haunted room, like you can see your breath?
Yeah,
it's
I
colder
think so.
or whatever.
Dante, do you have a forgettable movie?
Horizon, the Western.
See, I don't agree. I'll always remember. I'll always remember when I won't see the other three because they won't get made.
Yeah.
So is it just what you don't? Is it that you didn't care about the genre? Just didn't give a shit about the movie? What's?
Yeah, I just don't think I cared about the movie. Like, at the end of the day, right? Like, I'll say I think it was a good movie, right? It's just definitely not my type of movie. And come, next year or 2 years from now, I'll forget I ever watched it.
I think that's fair. I think if somebody asked you, like, if we weren't talking about it right now and somebody brought up the Western that came up this year, you might have been like,
the fuck?
Which
what?
movie was it? Is that on streaming? Like, what did I see? Yeah. Yeah, it's I found that I know that I am on the much higher end of the spectrum for enjoyment of that movie. I'm very much aware of it. I liked the ambiance and everything, but I couldn't tell you a plot point in that entire movie if you asked me about it right now. I don't remember any of the plot to it. I just remember enjoying it and enjoying all the characters over like the 3 hours that you kind of like were moseying along with it. I have one. I might have more than one, but I have one. And Dante, this seems pretty obvious to me. You took one towards like, I feel like the upper end of the list, and we have a similar list for the year.
Okay.
I'm picking one from towards the bottom.
Okay.
If you ever asked me about the Elizabeth Banks movie that came out this year,
I'm not great with names.
The makeup one?
Yeah.
Oh, Skincare.
Yeah. Like, if I will never remember the movie Skincare after this year is over.
No, we got to remember that one though, because it's gonna come up on a movie pyramid later.
Yeah. Like that'll be the one time where I'm grateful that I saw this movie, right? Yeah. But you know what I mean? Like that to me is the epitome of a movie that just existed this year. Like it's not. It wasn't good, so I can't say it was like mediocre even. Like I think it was below mediocre as far as like quality of film in it, but like the experience, there's nothing notable. Like it is true to the epitome of like what I've said this a lot this year, where it's not bad enough that I thought it was like fun, and it's not good enough that I was like,
it didn't elicit any kind of emotion.
Yeah, it was just a nothing burger of a movie the whole way through. So that's my vote is Skincare.
All right,
and I feel like that's the right one. Dave, did you want to do yours next? The
Greg Jennings Award.
Mm-hmm.
A movie where an actor basically carried the movie on its back.
A movie that was maybe had no right to be as good as it is, but because of the performance of that actor, it persevered.
Right. So it's not necessarily an award for a bad movie, but potentially a movie that would have been a heck of a lot worse without this actor. And my nomination goes to Josh Hartnett in Trap.
That's one of mine. I have 3 nominations. I agree with that one.
That's a good one.
He pushed that movie over the edge to be good. Yeah. His and it's a comeback performance for him. Like in a movie like that, I think spoke a lot to how good he was.
Yeah, he just played that like cool, like normal, like fun dad, but then you just look at his eyes and it was just like psycho. Like it was.
And I think for people our age, like we're kind of the perfect age. Dante didn't watch movies in the 90s or 2000, early 2000s, so he
never watched a
speak
movie before this year.
Yeah, but me and you lived through like there was a point in the end of the 90s, early 2000s where Josh Hartnett was like supposed to be the guy. Like kind of what Glenn Powell is this year, I feel like was what Josh Hartnett was doing in around 2000. And then we just didn't really see him post like Sin City and like Black Dahlia or something like that. You didn't really see him again. And now 15 years later, you're like, oh, wait, that guy was a really good actor. You know? I have a couple of nominations.
You got to pick one. That's the format we're running.
Well, I don't think that was ever decided upon.
All right. Well,
so I have one that we both saw, Dante. I wanted to give some props to Hunter Schafer.
Okay.
Because I thought she carried Cuckoo to being far better than what I anticipated walking in. And as far as like a breakthrough performance, which we don't have breakthrough performances on here.
Yeah.
I did want to talk about maybe a little bit about like an actor this year that caught you and you're like, I'm going to go and see their stuff from here on.
I'm going to look out for them. Yeah.
Yeah. But like Hunter Schafer, I thought for me was one of those people that because of this performance, and then I watched a little bit of Euphoria, I was like, wow, talented.
Yeah.
And then the other one, you guys didn't see this movie, but if anybody out there was to see this movie, you would 100% agree with what I'm about to say. The movie The Thicket that I saw, starring Peter Dinklage, was a movie that had no right to be of any quality. It was very low budget. It was kind of just like a throwaway Western type movie. And his performance is just like fantastic in it. And it's somebody that I know is a good actor, but it was one of those times where I was like,
you just got to watch him carry.
Yeah, I mean, to be completely transparent and honest, it's like that you could, for a guy, like a person like him, I'm sure he's faced issues with his height his whole career, like making certain roles not as available to him. And in this role, he is very much the star. He does action in the movie, and he's not treated as if he's like it's noted that he is small, but he is still just intimidating in that role of being, even though he's not as physically as imposing as the people he's acting against. And I thought that he just carried in such a way that when you brought up the award, I was like, he should get that for me. So yeah, Hartnett was the first person I wrote down, but those two stood out for me.
Okay. I'm going to preface with saying that I made these choices 5 minutes before we hit record.
Even though you had hours.
Yeah.
What was your plan?
I didn't have one.
Cool. Okay.
I thought we were planning in here, but yeah, no, it's cool. I threw down Anthony Mackie for Elevation.
All right. Yeah.
I think that's a movie that you cast anybody else and I would have hated that movie. But I'm just a sucker for it. Don't change my words.
No, I would never dream of it. Who are you sucking though?
I'm a fan of Anthony Mackie.
Got it. Are you a stan?
I don't think I'm at that level yet.
No.
Yeah. But no, I think he carried.
It is definitely a movie that, because it's a movie that's going to come up later on something for me, so I don't want to go too far, but like it's definitely a movie that his being in it is what made me want to see it, and probably elevates my enjoyment level, is because I like him.
I like that.
Yeah. Is that I enjoy him, right?
Yeah.
So it's definitely I definitely agree with that. I would say Hartnett's probably the winner, just because we both had him on our list, but there's not really winners and losers in this so much, you know. Okay. Let's do unintentional comedy of the year.
Can I, before we just jump into that, kind of just want to piggyback on like your breakthrough, like kind of artist of the year.
Yeah.
Because after just pulling up my list and just seeing one movie, I was like, oh yeah, Mikey Madsen.
Yes.
And Anora.
Yes.
Huge breakthrough performance.
Somebody who the next thing that they do, I'm gonna 100% be there.
Yeah.
for.
Oh yeah.
Her name is one I'm looking out for in future movie titles now.
Yeah, if we want to talk about that, I want to throw out Micah Monroe or whatever from Longlegs. The lead in Longlegs. I thought she was really, really good as well. Big year for female actresses. I feel like as far as breakthrough is concerned. Like the end of 2023 was like Sydney Sweeney's kind of come out party, but like throughout this year has had multiple movies, and her name's been very prevalent throughout.
Daisy Edgar-Jones too.
Another big one, that I would agree for on a major scale, like a large scale. She's going to start popping up in bigger budget movies because of Twisters. Also, girl from Civil War and Alien Romulus,
Kaylee Spaney, right?
Kaylee Spaney, another big one as far as breakthrough performances. Yeah, I think women, like female actresses, like in general. I
think this was a big year for
Hunter Schafer. We brought up like there are a ton of examples, and I think primarily they're females that like kind of stepped up on like that front. And it seems like in the past couple of years, through maybe it's like a Marvel, some other stuff, like a lot more men have definitely been popping through, like Glenn Powell being one of the big ones, not from Marvel, but just in general. Like the past couple of years been rebuilding Hollywood stars for males, and it feels like this year was the year for the women to kind of pop through and be like, yeah, we got this.
But I mean, Glenn Powell's a good call out. I mean, Timothée Chalamet had a really good year too.
But he was already, I think, established as being like that level of actor. I would also throw out like recently this month, like I thought Lily Rose Depp was fantastic in Nosferatu. I don't know who that is.
Oh, okay.
She off the lead from Nosferatu.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Although Timothée Chalamet has been already like in the limelight like for a while now, I feel like a lot of the press tour that he's done over the last month or 2 months for the Bob Dylan role has just elevated my appreciation for him. Mm-hmm. I think him as like a person and actor, doing all the collaborations that he's been doing over the last month has been like super cool and fun to watch. I think he's been some of like the best, like, I don't know, just like interviews of the year.
I think he had a very clear plan in his head for press tour that is about as seamless and good as I've seen any actor do. In terms of like, it seems like he just was like, I listened to Theo Vaughn and like that type of experience. I'd like to go on that show. That's one of the few things I'm going to do for this, or you see him pop up on these talk shows. Yeah. He just seems more human, even more personable. The college game day thing. Yeah. He strategically was like, let me feel like a normal everyday dude, which for that matter, I'm sure it had something to do with also the Bob Dylan aspect of it, where like there's nothing in the reviews I've seen of that movie, I did not see it, that are kind of just like, hey, like he's a very good actor in the movie, but the movie itself is like, there's nothing like huge that happens in Bob Dylan's life. It's more, he was just an interesting, normal dude. And I feel like that's what Chalamet was like, let me just go out there and be an ordinary guy and not just be this Hollywood actor who's dating a Kardashian. It's very easy to feel like you're not human in that environment. So huge strategic move for him. Okay. So what we're going to do, unintentional comedy of the year. I have 4 nominees if you guys don't have them yet.
I mean, I've got like 1 or 2.
I assume we're going to be along the same line. So I'll just rip my 4 nominees really quickly.
Is one of them Megalopolis?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the 4 funniest movies that didn't think that they were going to be funny when they were making them, to me, I had The Crow.
Okay.
These are obviously movies that took themselves seriously and thought they were making real movies. And when people went and saw them, were like, oh, these are just horribly written.
I don't think I found anything funny about The Crow. It was just, but I mean, I agree with Megalopolis. I mean, it was just a trash can of a movie, and it was just so bad that like you thought it was just this big grand thing, but in fact, like it was just a joke of itself.
Yeah. So The Crow, Megalopolis. I have the Sony Spider-Verse as number 3, just in totality.
Yeah.
And then I have a 4th that you guys haven't seen that I would feel not in good conscience if I didn't add this on here. The Carpenter. Jesus is an MMA fighter. That actually might be the funniest movie I saw all year. It's going to always hold a special spot in my heart. Let the Bodies Hit the Floor playing before Jesus fought in the pit. Yeah. Like that's hard to beat. It is hard to beat. I do think the winner of this has to probably be the Sony Spider-Verse, though, just on pure scale.
Madam Web was going to be my vote. So.
I think Madam Web's the most obvious, but I think in this room it's a little different because you guys were pretty fond of Venom, and like I know from talking to you, you haven't done the review on the pod, but like you didn't dislike Craven. You said you didn't see where it was as bad as what people said.
Right.
But I think that it's in a whole is kind of my point with the whole Sony Spider-Verse being nominated is predominantly for people that are going to see these movies. They're not going to see them because they think that they're good movies. They're going to see them to see what kind of a train wreck that Sony can put out next. And I think that all three of the movies that came out this year, in varying levels, with Madam Web being the largest of all of them, had moments in the movie where you're like, I can't believe that this made this into this film. Now, on a grander stage, I do think Megalopolis might win in totality of just being a 2.5 hour movie or 3 hour movie that at no point succeeds at being taken seriously.
0 point.
Like, is impossible to follow. The scripting is terrible, and just like the visuals are
bad.
Yeah.
I mean, the acting was awful as well.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody that was in it, I guess, put forth an effort, but like I think what they were handed was just so bad.
There was one really good actor in that movie.
See, I still don't even think that Aubrey Plaza was very good in that movie.
Auntie Wow.
Yeah. Auntie Wow, she was good. But this is my point. like inherently, she was just very funny and had like just moments that made me laugh. God. Shia LaBeouf playing like a simp. Man, that movie. Yeah, I think that wins for me is Megalopolis. Even though like I genuinely think that like Madam Web was one of the most fun viewing experiences I've had this year. There's something that I was in awe of while watching Megalopolis. That like it was completely opposite what I should have been in awe of for Francis Ford Coppola. But I think it was just too perfect. So that gets it for me.
I think I agree with you on that one.
Let's talk about the most mediocre movie that came out this year. Like the most in the middle of the road, like just existing movie possible. I have two on here. Do either one of you guys want to go first?
I'm going to need a second to pick one.
Yeah, I think for me, just a movie that existed that it's pretty much right in the middle of all my rankings is Here.
That makes sense, guys.
Yeah.
I think you both should have Here probably on your list.
Yeah, that's
interesting concept, but not enough happened to like.
It was like an artistic vision that was, I think, different enough for me to go see the movie, not knowing really what the movie was about, other than the fact that it's basically one still frame camera showing multiple stories from the same point of view. It was just a unique concept that got me into the movie, and then the movie itself was just kind of here.
Yeah, for the rest of it. Yeah. Dante, is that yours, or do you have another one you want to throw out?
I think I'm agreeing with that one, but I think I'm also going to tag in Bike Riders.
That is a very good one I did not write down. But that does feels a lot like it was just like,
I can never tell you it was a bad movie, but I can't tell you it's a good one either.
Yeah, that actually might be, now that I'm thinking of it, like the perfect, most mediocre movie possible, where you're like, I know all of these performances are pretty good and these are good actors, but like this movie's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that actually, I'm going to throw my two out there, but that actually might switch to being my one. So I put Piece by Piece.
Okay.
Because kind of what I was talking about with people's opinion on the Bob Dylan thing, I think I also kind of equate to if what we talked about before Piece by Piece ever came out, like the movie's just a gimmick, right? Yeah. Like it's very much like if that movie was made with real people instead of Legos, it's literally like,
it's just a documentary.
Why is this even a thing? And similar to the Bob Dylan feelings that I think people have, like there's nothing controversial really in the life of Pharrell Williams. Like it's mostly just like, hey, this dude's super talented, and it took a little while at the beginning to get caught on, and then he blew up, and then he had so much stuff going on that he hit like a creative wall, and he found a way through it. But there was no like huge moments throughout that. It was kind of just like smaller stuff popping up throughout it.
Yeah.
So without the gimmick, I think that it's like it is just the most mediocre thing possible. It needed that gimmick to make it like appealing at all. The other one I threw out there, and this is probably the more controversial one for me, Dante. I think The Beekeeper might be
No.
Like I enjoyed
have that
it
one for a different category.
Here's the thing, dude. I think it could fall under other categories. That's fair. I really enjoyed this movie. I'm not saying that it's not good. Like personal enjoyment, I think it's great. But I think 6 years from now, when people are talking about Jason Statham movies, this will be number 15 on the list, if anything, that comes up. And that's where I think that it's just like horribly mediocre, is in the pantheon of Jason Statham. It's just there.
I think I'm disagreeing with you. I'm putting this right behind The Transporter. Like, it's up there for me.
So I respect personal enjoyment, but I think for I'm looking at it objectively from an outside perspective, that most people didn't care about this movie. It came out at the beginning of the year. It's kind of a throwaway in that regard. And again, it's just a Statham movie. It's another Statham movie. Is kind of my thought process.
Yeah, but you're saying like people, but my understanding of this category was we were just talking about like the movie itself, you know, where it falls on the range of like good versus bad, right? But and I don't think this falls in the middle. I think this definitely leans more towards good.
Again, that's not being objective though. That's personal enjoyment, and that's fair.
Okay,
you can take like that how you want, but I do think as a whole, if I'm being objective, most people did not feel nearly as strong. This movie was in our top 10 for most of the year, and that's insane.
I think it's still kind of up there.
Yeah, that's
actually
insane. We're crazy people because we loved that Jason Statham beat up telemarketers.
Yeah. Like, you beat up call center scammers.
Yeah, like I don't get me wrong, that premise alone is hilarious. Like
it's also funny.
Movie.
It's still just barely out of my top 10. It's at 13.
Like it's pretty high on my list still. I think I have it at 3.5 stars. I'm just saying that like if there was anybody else but Jason Statham in it, probably wouldn't be that. It would be even more.
Oh yeah,
like
no,
there.
It sucked.
But if you look at the totality of the movies that man has put out, this is not that like significant of a film. So yeah, that one's
fine.
Yeah,
fine.
I agree with.
We'll agree to disagree.
No, but I agree.
Sorry.
I think Bike Riders was one I didn't write down, but I, in retrospect, agree that is the middle of the road.
Yeah,
like that is this year. Complete, like out of 100 movies, it was 50. Like it was just, it's the median for all other movies to surround.
Yeah.
Talk about biggest surprises for the year, movies that we didn't anticipate anything from that popped up and we were impressed by. I can lead off with one really quickly because it wasn't on. Well. I have 3 written down, but
okay.
I have one that was not on any of our list. We didn't speak about it. I know you had no expectations, hadn't even thought of it till the day.
I think you're going to say the same one I was about to say.
Longlegs.
Oh, no.
Is what I would say to me is the biggest surprise of any movie I saw this year as far as going in. Like it, so we did the preview.
Can I tell you really quickly why I didn't write that one down? Because I feel like around the time it came out, there was a lot of buzz around it that I just wasn't aware of. So that's where I didn't find myself wanting to put it as a sneaky hit because I was just like, oh, I was just uninformed.
Yeah, I think we did a preview at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
Longlegs wasn't on any lists.
Fair.
If you had have told me at the beginning of 2024 that there was going to be a Nicolas Cage
horror movie,
like where he's the villain, a serial killer, I'd be like, he's been surprising me recently with how like crazy he is, but I would not anticipate him putting on prosthetics and makeup and being like unrecognizable in this role and me being completely like lost in the performance.
Yeah.
As far as carrying movies are concerned, if you remove Nicolas Cage from that movie,
it's still an okay movie, but it's not a great movie.
The scene in the interrogation room, is going to be a scene that I'm going to remember from this movie forever. You know, so. Yeah, for me, I just think like going into it, being like, hey, people are saying this is really good. And then coming out of it and being like, wait, that completely lived up to everything that they said. And like, it's a genre that I don't think you get as much of anymore, that like Silence of the Lambs type, like FBI trying to chase down a serial killer, like storyline. You just don't get as much anymore. And I really liked it for that.
Okay. I know we just talked about it, but I threw Beekeeper in on that list. That's where I said it hit another list. I think that's just one we came up to, and it was just like, what the fuck is this? And came out enjoying it. The other one I threw on was Civil War.
Yeah, okay. Very good one.
I think that was like one where we literally went into the movie theater with zero expectation and came out like, wow, that was amazing.
I don't know if I had zero expectation. I didn't know what it was about. Was more what the level
I
of
guess,
expectation.
yeah, zero expectation is probably the wrong word.
Like, I thought it was going to be like
uninformed. Yeah.
I thought it was going to be like a modern Civil War, like where you're actually in the war.
Yeah,
I didn't expect it to be war photography happening during that time. Like I still came out of it being like, that was way better than I expected it to be. And same thing with Beekeeper was definitely one of those like, hey, we're going to go to, like, it's a movie coming out this week. I'm going to check it out. But came away being like, that was fucking crazy.
Yeah.
For me, it was Transformers 1.
Okay. Yeah.
I thought
that's a good pick.
Low expectations, came out.
Yeah. Like every single like voice actor performance in that movie, I think was a hit. I love the animation. I love like the setup, and I loved like the second half of that story. I think everything with that movie was a hit, and I mean, it's in my top 10 for the year. So
I definitely agree with that pick. Like I went into it knowing it would at least be okay, but it definitely greatly exceeded that expectation.
Two other ones I have on here. The first one, so we had like a lot of huge animated movies that have come out this year. In the beginning of the year preview, we talked about Inside Out.
Yeah.
I'm sure Moana 2 came up at some point during the beginning of the year.
So,
maybe not in that episode, but like we talked about it. Like there's like these huge mega titles in the animated world that were coming out that people were anticipating. And for me, the biggest surprise of anything was The Wild Robot being the number one animated movie for me this year, and bringing back that feeling of like what animated movies can do better than anything, which is touch on like every emotion possible, like laughter, joy, happiness, and then like true sadness at points in it too. Yeah. And I thought that movie, like from a quality standpoint, exceeded like all of my expectations for one that I didn't have any going into it necessarily. I think that's a big thing across the board this year for me, is seeing so many movies. There was a lot of them that I just obligation wise was seeing them more than like want, so something like that, walking out of it and being like, holy shit, that was really fucking good.
Yeah.
It was big.
I mean, one good plus that came out of us like going to see most of what came out in theaters this year is I've discovered movies that I otherwise would have never gone to see. And I think I found a favorite kind of class of movie now, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just like you have a broader spectrum on what you're willing to probably watch in general, right?
Yeah.
The other thing I have on here, just as an honorable mention, I thought SNL exceeded like all at levels of expectation that I could have had. Like, I like SNL, but not a huge fan of it.
Yeah.
The idea of like the hour and a half before they go, live for the first SNL,
time,
like was like a weird premise that I didn't really know what we were going to get out of it. And I remember coming out of it being like you're almost like sweating because you could feel the like tension of what they were trying to accomplish in that movie. And I just thought they executed on such a level. And then also when you have these ensemble casts that have so many different people that are recognizable, to not have any of them feel like they're
not overshadowing each other.
Yeah, they're not overshadowing each other. Nobody phoned it in because they were just going to be like a forgotten part. Like every scene that they got an opportunity to act in was acting their asses off. And I thought that like that movie was another one that just surprised me with where it landed on my list. Like, cause it could have very easily just been like, what did I go and watch? I could have watched all of this stuff play out live if I went and watched the first SNL episode, and instead, like, I was like, wow, all of these people played their characters to a T. This is super interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Next one's a fun one. A person who ruined their career that they maybe never really had. I don't know if you guys have nominations. I do have two.
I threw one in there just to kind of have something.
Okay.
Zachary Levi.
He was number one on my list.
Okay.
yeah, number one on my list. He actually started his downfall last year. With Shazam and his response to Shazam, but then this year decided I should double down by playing the same character that I played for two movies in Shazam that nobody really cared about. I'm going to be a kid again, but in this one, I'm going to have a purple crayon that I can draw a bunch of shit. And then on this one, when nobody wants to see that movie either, because who am I making this movie for? Kids weren't asking for it and adults don't like me. He gets even more mad that people aren't seeing his films, and he decides like, I need to go so far right wing and like go super political. I need to like align myself with all of that. He's now said he won't be making woke movies anymore. Like he's just done the list of shit that I think everybody's like, dude, shut the fuck up. Like,
yeah,
you are not successful enough. You weren't ever successful enough, but you decided in your head that you were at this level. And now in the public, decided not to listen to your PR team at any point and just shut the fuck up and let things happen.
Yeah.
They were talking about this on the Weekly Planet with him, where like they compared him to Ryan Gosling and Ryan Reynolds and how he handled Green Lantern. Because the whole thing with Levi is that he had this expectation coming off Shazam that he would be like a Chris Evans or somebody like that transcends to that next level. And he became very bitter because he didn't get that type of, reception. He never got that next step, right? And they were talking about how Ryan Reynolds like probably felt the same way when he took on Green Lantern, like this superhero, like check he's about to cash that's going to get him all these other roles, and people fucking hated it and panned it. And what did he do? And even Deadpool, for that matter, if you go back to the X-Men Deadpool role, like he had those things pop up and it never worked out, but he took it as a joke, right? And kind of laughed at it himself, and like failure happens, and like handled it the correct way in the public, so nobody was bitter towards him when his opportunity came back. Levi's not going to get himself an opportunity because of the way that he handled all this stuff. And I guarantee the purple crayon thing failed because a lot of it because of the way he's handled things in public perception, and people don't want to watch him anymore. So yeah, he's the one who ruined, like, to me, most, but there's one other name that is out there that is more current in terms of controversy. We've been talking about it for a couple months, but I wanted to throw this one out there. Justin Baldoni, director and star of It Ends With Us.
Right.
I didn't even know a lot about this guy. Apparently he is like one of those guys that goes on, like, he is woke. Like, he goes on to podcasts and stuff and talks about how like empowering women and like all of this shit. And now is having this controversy with Blake Lively on the set of that movie, to where he's facing like a lawsuit and all this shit. And he's actually suing the New York Times, I just read today, for $250 million for the way that they've handled the reporting on the Blake Lively controversy. You know, obviously, like, a lot of that is still like it hasn't like been determined, and it's playing out. But just this dude's career is shot, right? Whether this works out in his favor or doesn't work out in his favor, this is his first time that I think any of us have ever seen him in a major movie. He was also tasked with directing the major movie because of the perception that he put out there in the public. And then literally the exact opposite, this movie that's about domestic abuse and the way you treat women, he treated women like shit. He harassed them both like mentally, but also like sexually harassed, like just did the whole spectrum of shitty things you could do to hurt your name. And then on top of that, you talk about PR. Instead of just like handling it head on, tried to tank the credibility of his co-star to benefit himself, and got caught for it. So yeah, Justin Baldoni, I would not be surprised if we don't see him doing anything of note ever again.
Damn, yeah. No, that's a big one, yeah.
So those are the two for me. Levi, most obvious, but I just wanted to put a special highlight out there. Justin Baldoni. Dumbass, probably a piece of shit.
Valid.
The movie that probably won't get a sequel, but you'd maybe like to see one.
Red One.
Okay. That's a good one.
I like the universe they built, yeah.
Yeah, I think primarily the reception that movie got, from what I can see, was just mostly negative.
If you could give me a sequel without The Rock, I think I'd love it.
Yeah.
Lucy Liu.
I think I agree. I think just they opened up the door to having this like mythical creature universe movies, and I don't know, I just think there's so many different ways that you can go with this that I think you could potentially make a very easy sequel. But yeah, if you can do it without The Rock, might be for the best.
Yeah.
Do you have any?
You go first.
I have 4, so
oh my god,
I can.
Shiza.
So I put Elevation as one that I'd like to see where like they could continue to take the world, because like you kind of set us up with, we figured out how to beat this thing, but there's not a lot of humans left on the earth. I'd like to see how that plays out now with like them using the weaponry that they have to try and win back the Earth. I thought that would be kind of an interesting one. I put Craven because I liked that they finished the movie saying we're going to get a sequel while also their bosses being like, we're never making this again. Like, I thought that was funny. And I'd like to just see them try and make a sequel to this and see if people cared more or less. Or if they could do worse. Like that would be fun for me. I put the movie 1992 because I thought it'd be funny if they did like 1997 next, and it was like, and it was Tyrese dealing with like Tupac getting murdered on the strip or something. So
okay.
So yeah, I threw that one out there. Like the temperature in California after Tupac died is maybe the sequel. And then I put the movie Werewolves, which you guys didn't see, but I just like, I don't know, it's a really dumb movie, and I think it'd be funny to get a werewolves too. That's my short list.
Okay. I think I misinterpreted the category, but I put Sonic 3. So I'm like, they're probably done there.
No, they had post credits.
Oh, I didn't know there were post credits. I didn't stay for that.
Yeah.
Damn.
They introduced more characters.
Okay. All right. I'll shut the fuck up then.
Yeah. Sonic's not dead. Because even if Sonic was not successful in the movie theater, which I'm pretty sure it was,
I think
it would still get Paramount Plus TV series stuff, I think. So.
But that's not a sequel at that point. And that's kind of the way I thought it would go. I think the movie run is kind of done, and it's gonna water down to a series.
It's definitely not. Like, they definitely did I forget what characters they introduced in the end credits, because you know them. Me and David don't know them.
Now I'm like,
you
pumped, like now I want to like just pause and go check it real quick.
Yeah, pause. But yeah, I still think it's like, it may not be a true sequel, but I think you'd get more in the universe, so I think it still applies even if it was going to Paramount.
Okay.
I don't think there was any other ones that I had like that I was like, hey, this probably won't get a sequel, but it'd be interesting if it did.
I mean, just talking about Justin Baldoni would definitely won't get a sequel if it ends with us.
Well, yeah, that's fair, and that's one that I definitely wanted to get it. I mean, I guess you recast Ryle, but it'd be
it kind of
I don't know if
the
people
flow
would,
of it. You know?
Yeah, how people would feel about that. Yeah, and I don't think there was any other ones that super stood out to me. All right, and I want to say that's all of the categories.
How about a movie that was expecting a sequel that is definitely not going to get one now? So I guess like Craven could be on that list as well.
Yeah. Yeah. The Weekly Planet used to do this. It was called The Game Is On, and it would be where a movie like set up a post credit or something, being presumptuous enough to be like, people
are gonna come back to this.
Yeah, you guys are gonna love this movie, and you'll get another one. So yeah, I'm down with that.
For me, this is very easy.
What one?
Borderlands.
Yeah.
Definitely trying to set up this like big video game movie universe, and the movie was just dog water.
Damn.
Yeah, can we add to this real quick? Is that the biggest disappointment of the year?
I don't think I had high hopes for it based on the trailers. I had high hopes for it, I guess, just for the love of the game franchise. But I never had high hopes for the movie in general as soon as I saw who was in it. Even before the trailer. Just seeing who was in it, I knew it was bad.
Yeah, I think that's the thing about the disappointments this year. Like, I think most things that ended up being really bad, we kind of
knew they were going to be. Yeah, exactly.
Or we had no expectations for them to begin with.
I think most things kind of fell around where I anticipated them to be.
I think Borderlands still gets biggest disappointment for how much it cost. And then they also announced like Borderlands 4, like in coordination, thinking that it was going to be successful and they would get good buzz off of it.
I mean, the game will still be successful, but
you know what I mean. Like they coordinated that with the idea that they were going to be able to get this like push from the movie. So I think that it probably does ring. It's that, or to me, Red One are the two biggest disappointments of the year.
I'll kick it back to like the beginning of the year and say ISS.
But again, that goes back to what are your levels of expectation for ISS? nobody was anticipating that movie. Like, even though like we might have saw the trailers and been like, oh, like that looks interesting.
Looks cool,
but there was nobody that was like, there was no like clamoring like, I can't wait for this movie ISS. You know what I mean? Like, whereas
I get
like
what you're saying.
Red One has like an actor like The Rock in it, Chris Evans, has like this budget behind it. The same thing with Borderlands, bringing in a Kevin Hart, Kate Blanchett, and has all this money behind it, and then nobody sees it, and it's mostly panned for quality. Like, that's, to me, the biggest.
I would add Joker 2 to that as well.
That's actually maybe the biggest disappointment of the year. Yeah. Do you want to talk about how right I was now, or like, like it's probably a good opportunity to just like reflect on the year that was 2024 and say, I saw a budget of $200 million, and I said to myself, "There's something wrong here." Like the math is not mathing, and there is an issue. And yeah, it played out to a T the way I think. That can't even be a disappointment. That was a success story for me. So selfishly, I'm like, not a disappointment, because I knew that this was going to happen.
I mean, I think your prediction also came at the heels of you not liking the first movie.
Yeah.
Where the first movie was a massive success and the majority of people liked it, but like it was definitely a different take on the Joker and the universe. But like also like nobody knew that this was gonna be a god awful musical back then.
Well, and this is where the disappointment lies, though, because you bring in Lady Gaga, who has only been attached to pretty successful, especially from a cinema standpoint, has been very successful, and you bring in the anticipation of her being cast as Harley Quinn. And you talk about level of disappointment. I think that, to your point, there was so much going into this year that had people excited for a Joker 2, from the success of the first movie, from the casting of this, from Joaquin Phoenix being who he is and playing the Joker the way he did. Yeah, so that actually might be the biggest disappointment of the year. You're right. Or it could be Megalopolis. Just throw that out.
I don't think we expected anything of that.
Somebody did. Somebody expected something.
Critics are saying.
We did biggest surprise. Let's talk top tens, shall we?
Yeah.
Just top 10 movie theater movies of the year.
Yeah, so let's start here, Dante. Me and you say it wasn't a competition.
It wasn't.
I do recall telling you there is not a world in which we get to the end of the year and you have seen more movies than me. Was that a quote?
That sounds about right.
And you been like, we'll see.
And now we see.
And you had these moments where you were kind of lording it over me in the summer, where you were a couple movies in front and you had this like cocky arrogance about you. I didn't forget it. And what did I do? I went to the lab. I went back into the lab.
We work shifts, bro.
And I said,
knuckle down.
This ain't happening. And then last night, Dante came around, Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve, and I said to myself, pour salt on the wound. Go see another one. Because he's going to think, I had this inkling. I was like, we're going to come in and Dante's going to do enough to get to 107, or he'll do enough to beat me by one. And I was like,
can't let it happen.
Not going to be a thing. So let me get into the lab one more time, eke one more out before the end of the year. I almost did two, but just timing didn't work.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just want you to give me my flowers. I am victorious.
I ain't get you no fucking flowers.
Like metaphorically.
No, not even metaphorically.
Could you hand metaphorical flowers to me, please?
No, not even metaphorically.
No, Dante.
I'm not. No.
Dante.
No.
Dante. Dave,
no.
Can you pass me the flowers for Dante?
Hey, whoa, bro. You leave those there. What are you doing, bro?
Thank you, Dave. Those are my flowers. 108, 106. Suck it. Can't see me, bitch.
God damn it.
Yeah. So
you only caught up because I got a job.
I caught up before you had the job, buddy. I caught up before you had the job. And if anything, yeah, I gave myself a handicap all year while you could just dick around and go to spend full days in the theater.
Yeah, no, that did happen.
Me, I was putting in 8-hour work shifts and then still going and doing another 4 or 5 in the theater afterwards. I almost passed out seeing fucking Nosferatu, I'm pretty sure. Because like I did like the 8 to 4 and then I went and saw Lion King and fucking Nosferatu back to back or something.
Oh, damn.
Or would it have been Craven? No, it would have been Nosferatu. Yeah.
Oh,
I just know I was like gassed watching that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's run through the lists. So we're at 108. I think I'm pretty much finalized on my top 10. Now that I'm looking at it, there's one I kind of want to flip.
I put in 36, by the way. I think there might be one or two that I didn't add.
Yeah. What did we see last year, Dante? How many? 39.
Yeah.
So you almost kept up with our last year pace.
You know, and I came in here halfway through the year.
And you say we. That was you. I didn't have a list last year.
Fair. You probably saw close to like 35 to 40, right?
Yeah, I was only probably a little shy of what you watched.
So there is actually a change that I think I want to make looking at this. But so Dune 2 stayed consistently as my number one movie.
Yes.
Through the
I
whole
moved
year.
my list around a little bit before we started. I've got Dune 2 at number 2.
Okay. And we can talk about your number one. I think you've overrated this movie all year long. But it's fair. It's an opinion-based thing. I'm not mad at you.
I mean, we mentioned this beforehand. So number one for me is The Fall Guy. It is my introduction to the podcast. It was the first movie that I saw, in terms of like coming on here and sitting in front of you guys and doing a review. But nothing I've watched, I guess, throughout the rest of the year just gave me that like completion like feeling that movie gave me. I didn't think that there was
The hot goss got you there, huh?
This man nutted.
Pause.
Yeah, the hot goss got you there to completion.
Did Dante go in the bathroom after you?
No, the guy in the theater sitting like 2 seats over to our right.
That definitely added
was
to
to
the experience.
completion.
I'll give you
Right.
that.
He was to completion. Yeah.
But I just thought the action and the comedy and the acting in this movie, I think it hit for me was like 10 out of 10 on the whole thing. I don't think there was anything that really missed in this movie, which is why it kind of stayed up there.
I mean, it is also in my top 10. It's just not number one.
It is not in my top 10. I just like, I don't see it on the same level of like both cinema experience, because I think that's what you're primarily like gauging this off of. Like, I just think like Dune 2 was like awe-inspiring, like mind-blowing, like top to bottom performances, action, visuals. Like, I think that is about as perfect a movie this year as I think you could have found was Dune 2.
See me, I've got that at my second ranking for pretty much exactly what you said. However, this is just like a story and movie franchise that I kind of just don't care about. But like in terms of what the movie is and what it did, it's still extremely high on my list in terms of just it being a good movie. But I kind of just don't care. So I'm like, it just never pushed itself into the number one for me.
So I have Gladiator 2 as my number 2 movie of the year. It's higher than I think. You know, I think people have been fairly mixed. Like, some people think it's too much like the first one. Like, some people just don't think it hits the same. I think similar to what I said, the experience that I got from Dune, like, I think Gladiator accomplished a lot of similar things for me, where it had like awe-inspiring visuals and action, but it also had a performance from Denzel Washington that I think is one of my favorite performances that I've ever seen him put on. Not to mention the surrounding characters that I think you had other great leads. You also had other great supporting characters. I think it was able to hit on everything. And a guy like Daisy Ridley Scott was able to make like his name synonymous again with like epic action movies off of this.
Yeah, I mean,
so Gladiator 2 is the movie that right before the pod started, I rearranged my list and I moved it like 3 or 4 spots down out of my top 10.
okay.
For me, I think it was just too much of a rehash of the first movie. And I just thought that the scene and like setting of it seemed too small for what the movie should have been. Everything seemed pretty contained in like small shots, and I never really got this big, grand, like Roman Empire like feeling from this movie.
And you had a whole real city at the beginning of the movie. I thought like the scenes in the Colosseum felt massive, even though they were within that smaller confined setting. Like, at the end of the day, the movie's about gladiators in the Colosseum. So I don't know how much grander or expanded that the world could be. I mean, you saw outside of the walls. Like, it had stuff that the first Gladiator didn't have as far as like scenery and like Like the first movie had the war at the beginning, and then everything else is in the Coliseum.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there you go.
I think I'm agreeing with your take there. For like the first few months of the year, like as we were keeping our list, we were pretty on par, and obviously as the year progressed, we found some polarity there. So my number 2 is not your number 2. My number 2 is Wicked.
Yeah, and this is where I am definitely, that's the one I'm moving out of my top 10 when I was just looking at my list.
Gotcha.
Because it's at 10 right now.
Okay.
On my list, and I think I wanted it 11 because I think I like the movie I have at 11 better.
Okay.
Popular.
Just to round out the rest of the top 5 for me, I have Alien Romulus at 3. Another one where, similar to Gladiator, I think is going to be divisive amongst people that feel like it's too much like its predecessors. And but for me, it's an environment that I really liked. It's the type of horror movie I really enjoy, where it's a lot more subtle and subdued, and it's just like atmosphere and ambiance that builds the tension for the movie. And then to boot, like we talked about Kaylee Spraney, like I just thought there was performances from the couple of leads in the movie that I don't remember her like robot brother's like name in the movie. Well, in the movie or in real life, but like he was it David?
Andy.
Okay, yeah.
His real name
David was
David
Fassbender,
Johnson,
right? He was fantastic, and also the other male lead was very good in it too.
Talking about Archie Renell?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I just thought like fantastic performances, great ambiance, and I thought it was a successful revisitation to the world that is Alien, and I think for so many years we haven't had that it made me really appreciate it. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, another one from a viewing experience. I think most of these get pushed up higher on my list because of theater viewing experience, not necessarily movie. And I think that this was one where visuals and everything just enhanced like my experience of seeing the movie, you know? And then the last one I had was Furiosa, which bombed, but I thought Hemsworth was awesome, and it had some great action scenes in it.
I'll throw out my top 5 real quick. So, Dune, Wicked, Gladiator 2 is my number 3. Then I have Deadpool and Wolverine and Civil War.
So Deadpool and Wolverine's one that I'm considering dropping out of my top 10, maybe.
Yeah, that's currently out of my top. I don't think it ever even cracked my top 10.
Yeah, Civil War's not in my top 10 either. Civil War visually, I thought was one of the most impressive movies of the year for its cinematography. Again, another Kaylee Spraney one where I was like, wow, this girl's really good. I'm going to keep an eye on her. Nice to see Kirsten Dunst make her like another appearance in like a big movie and be like, oh, she's still similar to the Josh Hartnett thing, being like, oh wait, she's still really good. Like this is great. But I think that there was gaps in that movie where it was just kind of dry at times too. So I think that's where it gets knocked down.
It's been a while since I watched it, but I feel like I remember thoroughly enjoying it from beginning to end.
Yeah, see, Civil War is what I kind of swapped out with Gladiator, and I moved it up a couple of spots, like into my top 10, and pushed Gladiator out.
I think there's 3 I want to move down, and a couple I want to move up.
Yeah.
So my top 5, we got 2 more in here that you guys don't have. So Fall Guy 1, Dune Part 2 was number 2. My third best movie of the year was Anora. I thought was just came out of nowhere for me. Like I knew nothing about it. I knew nothing about Mikey Madsen, and I just thought it was absolutely fantastic. 4 was Wicked, and then 5 was The Wild Robot.
So I want to move Anora and The Wild Robot into my top 10. So I think in real time, I'm moving 3 movies out of my top 10, which will be Wolverine, A Quiet Place, and Wicked. And I'll be swapping them with We Live in Time, The Wild Robot, and Anora.
Okay.
In some facet or another.
I mean, I think I got to reflow some things because I definitely do feel like that's fair that Anora and Wild Robot are up there. I don't think We Live in Time landed the same way for me, but
I just thought the performances from Garfield and Florence Pugh were spectacular. Like, I could, some of the movie itself is where I think it landed at 11 for me, but like their performances are so good that I think to
Florence
me looking
Pugh undeniably was like amazing.
And when I look at like A Quiet Place Day One, I'm like, I don't think that it's as good as those three movies.
Fair.
I think that goes back to that being on it because there was something about the movie experience, like the sound design and stuff like that like can only be created in like the Dolby Cinema that doesn't transfer to watching at home, where I think years from now, like We Live in Time and Nora, like these things that aren't reliant on the movie theater viewing experience are better movies for.
Yeah, you got tricked by the crystals and the lasers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. They got me
Laser
good with that shit. No, it was the Dolby Vision. It was the true black that they were able to accomplish in the theater. Is what did it for me. The one thing one other thing I want to talk about real quick. I didn't have a way to add this into a superlative, but talking about Anora, I do think that this is the year, like, and this is just a fresh take in my mind. Did you see Nosferatu, Dante?
Yeah.
Okay. You saw Nosferatu. Did you see Baby Girl?
Yeah.
This year had some of the most sexual shit in movies of any year of my life. Like talking about Anora.
Yeah.
The Auntie Wow like scene in Megalopolis. And then watching Nosferatu and Baby Girl in close proximity to each other.
Bro.
is something else, dude. Like,
bro, like Baby Girl just started out unhinged.
Yeah, like the whole movie is just like
the whole movie's unhinged, but like
Yeah.
it just started out and I was like, this is what we're doing. Okay.
Yeah. So I just like there was definitely this year pushed the limits for me as far as like sexual shit in movies. To a new level.
You want to revisit that study about if there's too much sex in movies?
It was definitely like Nosferatu, and because Nosferatu, I've been telling people who haven't seen it yet, I'm like, be prepared. It's a lot more sexual than I think you'll expect it is, because like the movie's like her having wet dreams about a vampire, and then him when he's sucking Nicholas Holt's blood is it's intentionally and like that genre is inherently sexual. I would also add in Alien Romulus is another one that like was very sexual in the way that it approached like horror. And I think that Nosferatu in my mind was very similar to what they went with Alien Romulus. And like this dude's aroused from sucking on fucking blood. Like he is getting into it. And you're like, well, this is a little much. He's humping a corpse right now.
And he's in there.
Yeah, you know. So yeah, that was like one of the things in the last week of the month or the last week of the year that I was like, damn, there's been a lot of sexual shit in movies this year. Like very. But Anora stands out amongst them all as far as quality. I think we can all agree.
Yeah.
Thank you. I was just hoping one more. And yeah, it would come out. Any other year-end stuff we want to unpack, guys?
I got nothing.
No, I mean, I think we touched upon a lot.
Cool. So stay tuned until next week for our 2025 preview. We'll go through the movies coming out, throw some predictions around what's going to be good, what's going to be bad, what are we looking forward to, what are we not. Let us know what you guys enjoyed out of 2024, what made your top 5. What did you nominate for these awards that maybe we didn't think about or didn't throw out there? Maybe it's one of the few things we didn't even see. I don't know. While you're doing that, though, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe on the video and or audio platform that you are listening to. Until next week, though, we love you. Peace out.
Peace.
Happy New Year, folks.
Bang, bang.
Skid.
For those with good taste.
All right.
Swedish.
The accent, it's